Nobody ever deliberately chose death. I'm sure of that. Wasn't it Tennyson that said, no matter what crazy sorrow saith, no man that ever breathed with mortal breath has ever really longed for death? 'Tis life, not death, for which we pant. And nobody ever longed for death, but they just choose the path that leads there. And so they've chosen it by a series of small choices. They made the last choice of moral folly. They chose death. Not that they looked at death and said, I choose you, but they looked at all the pleasant ways that lead there and said, I choose you. Young couples that get out in a car on a night like this, drink a little, they can get it somewhere, and get excited and worked up, and go out onto the highway full of jokes, borderline, and all other kind. They zoom down the highway. Not one of them's choosing death. Not one of them's choosing death. Ask the driver as he stops somewhere for gas, do you want to die? And if you can get him still long enough and quiet long enough, he'll say, why, ask me a foolish question, of course not. Ask the girl that sits beside him, do you want to die? And she said, no, I'm too young. I've got my life ahead of me. I'm just having some fun. Ask the two in the back seat, sitting as close as one. And say, do you two want to die? And they say, no, we don't want to die. Of course not. We want to live and love and enjoy the world. Nobody wants to die. But they wanted to drink. And they wanted to see how much was in the old car. And the boy at the wheel wanted to show off before his giggling companion. As they round a bend, they lose control, and the poor hard-working cops come along later and, sick inside, drag them out. One or two of them dead and a couple more broken. They didn't choose to die. They simply chose the way that leads there. Choose you this day. I set before you the way of life and the way of death. Choose you this day. Cities don't choose to rot and die. They just choose to do that which leads them to rot and die. And just as men do not choose life, or choose death, they do not choose life in itself. No man can stand up and say, I choose life. In that sense, he says, I choose the one who gives life. I choose the way to life. I choose life by choosing the way that leads there. I choose life by choosing the one that gives life. I choose life by repudiating death. I choose life. I've made a lot of fool choices in my time, I suppose, but I've never regretted the one I made when I decided that I would become a Christian. Though there was nobody in my home that was a Christian. Nobody. Not any influence anywhere in my whole circle of relations and close friends. Not one. But by the good mercy of God, I said I would. And I didn't know what I was getting myself in for. I didn't know the joys and I didn't know the sorrows. I didn't know the pleasures and I didn't know the hardships. But I chose. And so men choose life by choosing the course that leads to life.